Chapter 23:30, Battle Matrix of the Rocks. Chapter 23:30, Battle Matrix of the Rocks. The golden divine light shone upon the 9 great cultivators from the lost clan, and the divine light that burst out from them flooded the sky. 9 massive and boundless shadows of the ancient gods appeared, covering the surrounding area as they stood above the sky. Those golden divine walls appeared again, sealing the void to imprison them within its bounds. It seemed that they were resorting to the same method as before. The monstrous demonic might gathered, and a demonic godlike figure appeared. Xiao Mu, likewise, burst out with an aggressive force as a dark demonic blade appeared above his head. A horrific apocalyptic aura now erupted from the demonic blade, unleashing the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon right off the bat. It seemed that Xiao Mu wanted to split open these divine walls in the most direct and domineering way possible. The rest of the cultivators also bloomed with their own extraordinary specialty. One stretched out his palms and saw that the palms became a golden color and kept expanding. There seemed to be the most brilliant golden divine light from the runes in the center of the palms. Needless to say, it contained incredible and horrific power. There was also a cultivator holding the infinite ruler. When he waved, the ruler expanded and clearly contained the terrifying power of the Great Path. They were curious to see just how strong this divine wall was. "You guys move first," Xiao Mu commanded, and the rest of his cohort nodded. Xiao Mu's status as the direct disciple of the Devil Emperor was lofty and supreme. He was probably the strongest of them all. There would be no questioning his authority in asking the others to move first. As attacks were blasted out successively and landed on those divine walls, suddenly an astonishing destructive power erupted, causing the walls to vibrate and tremble. It was obviously more powerful than the previous attacks from those 9 people. After they unleashed their attacks, Xiao Mu's heavenly demon blade swung out, finding purchase on a weakened spot that was still trembling. Immediately, a crack appeared on the divine wall and spread quickly toward the inside. "Continue to attack there," said Xiao Mu. Instantly, the other cultivators began their furious and violent attacks on that very spot, causing the crack to widen. The second strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon slammed down and tore a giant opening on the divine wall, which spread madly towards its surroundings. The opening continued to enlarge as other cracks began appearing in other areas. Buzz! The gigantic and boundless infinite ruler was thrown out and turned into a sky full of shadows, covering the sky and obscuring the sun. This came along with the booming roaring of the Great Path and the unparalleled power of spatial shredding of the Great Path. No corner was spared. It had made contact with every part of the divine wall. Crunch! There was a violent cracking sound as many cracks appeared on the divine walls. The attacks from other cultivators followed in its wake, and the cracks expanded. Xiao Mu's third strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon smashed down for the kill. Finally, those countless cracks continued expanding faster until a light of destruction burst out. In an instant, the divine walls disintegrated and pulverized, completely in shambles. What an amazing defense! Futian applauded silently. Not for the attacks from the 9 cultivators but the sturdiness of the divine walls. They were too strong. Even a cultivator like Xiao Mu had to exert an inordinate effort to dismantle the walls. What kind of defense was this? Futian reckoned that even he himself could not have done it. The battle matrix formed by these 9 was incredibly awesome. He couldn't help but ask himself at this moment, if he was on the battlefield now, could he possibly break its defense? It was probably unlikely. After the divine walls were pulverized, the 9 great cultivators continued standing in those 9 positions without wavering. The ancient godlike phantoms overshadowed their bodies and were still expanding until they resembled the bodies of the ancient gods, shrouding this corner of the sky. When everyone saw this, they were beyond surprised. The bodies of the 9 ancient gods were connected. Their massive and towering bodies covered heaven and the earth as if to seal this space with bodies of flesh and blood. The hearts of many quivered. How strong would their physical defenses be? Xiao Mu and other cultivators fixed their attention on the 9 ancient gods surrounding the void. An overwhelming power of the Great Path gathered once again, and the light from the heavenly demon blade was shining. Jets of black destruction currents circulated ominously. They did not believe that the defensive power of these cultivators from the Lost Clan could be dominant enough to ignore their level of attacks. "Move at the same time," said Xiao Mu. Suddenly he moved to attack one of the ancient gods. The fourth strike from the heavenly demon blade unleashed. When the light of the blade bloomed, it seemed on the verge of crushing through the void as it smashed toward one of the ancient gods. Like him, the other 8 cultivators did the same. Each selected an ancient god and exploded with massive attacking power. For a time, within this space of the Great Path, terrifying storms of destruction erupted. Numerous destructive attacks blasted on the bodies of these 9 ancient gods at the same time. The terrifying power rocked the bodies of these ancient gods. Xiao Mu's broadsword will, especially, seemed to have penetrated the defenses crafted by the golden divine light and rushed into the bodies of the ancient gods. The residual waves of the attacks jolted the physical bodies of the cultivators shrouded inside these ancient deities, and the terrifying destructive force aimed to crush and kill them. Bang bang bang. The 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan were impacted on their flesh by that tyrannical attack, but they remained standing firmly, as indestructible as rocks, unfazed. All the cultivators were shocked when they beheld this sight, including Yi Futian. Physical bodies like this? In the attack just now, he clearly felt that all 9 cultivators had been attacked. The one directly facing Xiao Mu had been hit the hardest. However, he was as solid as a rock, standing tall, like a truly invincible presence that would never fall. Moreover, the abilities currently demonstrated by these cultivators from the Lost Clan were their tyrannical and aggressive defensive powers, whether supernatural or physical. However, they did not demonstrate any substantive offensive moves. Could the environment be a factor? Their mission was to protect the Shani continent, so their main focus was on defense, not offense. But such tyrannical physiques almost guaranteed that their combat effectiveness would be equally horrific. They would, no doubt, be able to slay an ordinary existence of the same realm in the blink of an eye. The physical tyranny of these people was probably not much lesser than that of Xiao Mu. What Xiao Mu cultivated was the super-demonic form passed down by the Devil Emperor. Once more, Xiao Mu's eyes sharpened, and he became more somber as he made his command. He continued to gather an even stronger demonic might, and the 5th strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon condensed into existence. Its power overwhelmed the sky, frightening to the extreme. He couldn't believe that he wouldn't be able to defeat this defense. At this moment, all 9 cultivators of the Lost Clan condensed the seals in their hands. Suddenly, phantoms of even more ancient gods manifested between heaven and earth, and invisible sounds of rhythm appeared in the void. Boundless and solemn, they made everyone feel an incredible heaviness. It seems that even Xiao Mu and his cohort cannot break the defense of the Lost Clan, Yi Futian thought when he saw this. They were far stronger, and this force was indestructible. Sure enough, when Xiao Mu's 5th strike smashed down, the rest of the cultivators exploded with even stronger attacks, but the result was the same. All the powerful people from the Lost Clan stood in the distance and quietly observing as this played out in front of their eyes. These 9 people were far from ordinary. They were cultivators carefully selected by the Lost Clan. The battle matrix of the rocks that they crafted was not something that could be easily broken. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:31. Choosing the right person. Chapter 23:31. Choosing the right person. Xiao Mu felt an incredible sense of defeat. He had already unleashed 5 strikes, which was at no small cost to himself. And now, he had only enough strength to launch one last strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. However, at present, the 5th strike was still unable to get the job done. Would the 6th strike make any difference? Previously, he was defeated at the hands of Yi Futian. Now, facing the cultivators from the Lost Clan, he was not faring any better. This was totally different from what he had in mind. He came from the Devil world and a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor himself. His cultivation was so tremendous that he thought no one could compete across all major worlds. But after coming to the original realm, he had tasted nothing but frustration. He was defeated right off the bat in the first battle by Futian, who was an entire realm lower than him. In both battles that he had participated in after arriving in the original realm, Xiaomu seemed to realize just how big the world really was and how many outstanding figures there were in the world. The lost clan that appeared during the changes taking place in the original realm was a good example. None of their cultivators were any less when battling the top figures in this world. Above the firmament, the 9 powerful cultivators from the lost clan put their hands together. A divine light bloomed at their brow chakras, turning into thousands of divine shadows. It was as if they were the ancient gods who were as solid as a rock. They had transformed their incomparably resilient spiritual will in combination with the bodies of the Great Path and forged this body of the ancient god. The bodies of many ancient gods resonated and merged into one, turning this space into a rock domain, like a domain belonging to the deities. It was as indestructible as the will of the lost clan. Futian was not the only one who felt the immensity of that power. Even others realized that those 9 cultivators, who were as strong as Xiaomu, still couldn't break down defenses such as this one. The cultivators from the Lost Clan were experts at constructing defense, so much so that this defensive force could not be destroyed at all. Even the 9 cultivators on the battlefield realized it themselves. Even so, they didn't give up. The great path on their bodies roared as an extraordinary power burst forth. Xiaomu, likewise, unleashed the 6th strike in the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon in concert with the rest of the cultivators. The attack this time was several times stronger than the previous ones. When the attack landed, the divine shadows that had filled the heaven shook violently, and some of them were shattered. Obviously, this extremely powerful attack could shake up the battle matrix of the rocks to some extent. However, the outcome remained the same. The shapes of those 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan were shaken a bit but remained as unmoving as a rock. Their physical bodies and spiritual will were integrated and were in perfect harmony with heaven and earth. Their spiritual will was as firm as a rock, and their physical bodies were deeply rooted in the earth. This was the true essence of the battle matrix of the rocks. It was as the ancestors had intended when they created it. This was the only way that Shini continent could be protected despite the darkness and continue its survival in the world. As Futian observed this power from the battle matrix of the rocks, he could clearly perceive the firmness of the will from these cultivators. He could see how the cultivators from the Lost Clan were able to survive these countless years, wandering through the dark world on the Shini continent. They had turned their own bodies into rock to protect the continent from destruction. At this moment, there was more credence in what the cultivator from the Lost Clan had told them. This was certainly a clan worthy of great respect and friendship and definitely not as an enemy. Excellent. Cultivators such as Emperor Nan and the others also realized this and let out an emotional remark. How determined would they need to be to shuttle through these endless years in the darkness like this? They had forged rocks out of flesh and blood to protect the Shini continent. This could not be achieved without a certain degree of conviction. It was precisely on account of their steadfast belief that they were able to explode with such terrifying combative power. Even the one as great as Xiaomu, the Devil Emperor's own direct disciple, had no way of defeating them. Their spirit was simply awe-inspiring. On the battlefield, Xiaomu and the other 9 cultivators were discouraged and frustrated. They knew they had been defeated, and it was impossible to break this defense. It was not just a matter of Xiaomu and the others. The result would be the same with another set of 9 cultivators. Perhaps if there were 9 people at the same level as Xiaomu, they might have a chance to destroy the battle matrix of the rocks. But how strong of a force would be required then? Everyone, please exit. The battle matrix of the rocks opened up and a passageway appeared, allowing Xiaomu and his party to leave. Both sides understood that the outcome couldn't be clearer, so there was no point in continuing the fight. Impressive. Xiaomu's eyes were pitch black as he looked at the cultivator from the Lost Clan. He then exited the bounds of the battle matrix of the rocks and returned to the camp that belonged to the Devil World. The other cultivators followed his lead and returned to camp with him, disturbed to their core. This battle was not your fault. Few would be able to break this battle matrix, an elder from the devil world said to Xiaomu. Even though he was watching the battle from the sidelines, he could sense the power exuded from the battle matrix of the rocks. But it didn't make Xiaomu feel any better. Defeat was defeat. No amount of excuses could explain that away. It's a great feat for you to be able to shake the battle matrix of the rocks like this. The battle matrix of the rocks forged by the 9 of them requires the full eruption of their spiritual will and physical strength to the extreme to render the battle matrix indestructible. You have done very well already. At this time, the old man from the Lost Clan spoke up, perhaps wanting to comfort them. However, from his words, one could detect the Lost Clan's strong faith in the battle matrix of the rocks. The power of the Great Path integrated spiritual will and physical strength. The ultimate power that erupted from it was then used to form this unbreakable battle matrix. For countless years, generations of cultivators from the Lost Clan had protected the Shini continent by relying on superior defenses such as the battle matrix of the rocks. Furthermore, this was not yet the ultimate configuration in the battle matrix of the rocks. Would there be anyone in the Renhuang 8th realm who wants to give it a try? The old man from the Lost Clan asked as he surveyed the cultivators from all forces. At this moment, those whose cultivation was at the very top were impatient, as if they were all eager to see just how strong was this battle matrix of the rocks and if they could destroy it. I'll try. At this moment, another cultivator came forward. This was someone from Divine Prefecture. When this man appeared, many cultivators from Divine Prefecture sat up and took notice. Obviously, many cultivators knew who the man was. Clad in white, this man was stunningly handsome. Just standing there, he seemed to be one with the Great Path, emitting an air of celestial detachment. After the Renhuang in white walked forward, he glanced at the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan and then at the cultivators from Divine Prefecture. Someone else walked out as if wanting to give it a try. However, the Renhuang in white saw him walked out and said instead, "If you want to try it, try in the next round." The Renhuang at the receiving end of this remark frowned. The man's words were so impolite they were bordering on rude. However, the Renhuang in white didn't seem to care at all. He looked at all the cultivators from Divine Prefecture and said, "The Lost Clan's battle matrix of the rocks is indestructible, but all the principalities of Divine Prefecture are here as well, so how can there be battle matrices that cannot be broken? Therefore, I would like to invite some others from Divine Prefecture to break the battle matrix of the rocks with me." His meaning couldn't be clearer. He wanted to pick his allies, and that cultivator who had walked out was not considered suitable. In his opinion, the man was not worthy of fighting side by side with him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. The various cultivators all looked at the person who had spoken. He clearly wanted to break through the battle matrix of the rocks for him to have stepped forward. He also wanted to select people to follow him to break through the matrix. Obviously, he placed great importance in the battle matrix of the rocks, and his true colors were showing. The various cultivators all looked at the person who had spoken. He clearly wanted to break through the battle matrix of the rocks for him to have stepped forward. He also wanted to select people to follow him to break through the matrix. Obviously, he placed great importance in the battle matrix of the rocks, and his true colors were showing. This cultivator was from the ancient god clan of the Nantian domain in the Divine Prefecture. He was in existence with exceptional ability. He turned down the cultivators who had proactively stepped forward just now. He believed that the other party was unworthy of standing side by side with him in battle. If that were the case, the people that he wanted to select would certainly be figures of the same level as him. Was he planning to choose the most brilliant figures of the Divine Prefecture to follow him into battle? If so, it was indeed possible for them to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. Among the cultivators here today, the lineup of cultivators from the Divine Prefecture was indeed the strongest. After all, in name, the original realm was still under the rule of the Donghuang Imperial Palace of the Divine Prefecture. The top forces of the 18 domains in the Divine Prefecture had all come here, including the domain chief's manners as well as the ancient god clan. Hence, it was possible to choose 9 of the finest 8th-tier renhuangs from among the various forces of the 18 domains. The white-robed cultivator's gaze shifted in a different direction. In that direction, a group of figures was radiating with golden divine halos. They were dazzling to behold, but their appearances were not outstanding. They quietly stood there, but they gave off an unshakable vibe. The temperament of these people was even similar to that of the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. The gazes of many cultivators also turned to look in that direction. Yi Futian and the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were not familiar with the top forces of the Divine Prefecture. However, in the Divine Prefecture, many forces knew something about each other. When they saw this group of people, many cultivators from the top forces of the Divine Prefecture knew their identity. They were from the strongest force from the Vajra domain of the 18 domains in the Divine Prefecture. They were also part of the ancient god clan and had inherited the teachings of a great emperor. When they saw the gaze of the white-robed youth, a cultivator from among this force walked out. He seemed to understand the intention in the other party's gaze. The skin of this cultivator appeared golden. His eyes shone with a sharp, golden divine light. He looked at the white-robed cultivator and said, "If that is the case, let us experience the battle matrix of the rocks of the Lost Clan together." The white-robed cultivator nodded his head slightly. He shifted his gaze again and looked in another direction. This time, he looked towards the cultivators of a top force from the Yuanshi domain. Similarly, a cultivator immediately walked out from there. This time, the cultivator who emerged seemed older and gave off an otherworldly air. However, no one dared to underestimate him. The cultivators from the dark world, the devil world, the human realm as well as the other worlds watched all of this quietly. They all realized that the Divine Prefecture was preparing to send their strongest lineup into battle. Among the 8th-tier renhuangs, even though they might not be the strongest group, they would definitely be considered the finest. They were adamant about breaking through the battle matrix of the rocks. Right now, even the cultivators of the Lost Clan had serious expressions. They seemed to have realized the resolve of the other party. Although they were confident in the battle matrix of the rocks, they did not dare underestimate this group. Each cultivator who stepped forward made the cultivators of the Lost Clan feel slightly pressured. Any one of them could prove a match for Xiaomu. After that, the gaze of the white-robed cultivator continued to wander among the crowd. More and more people emerged. Not long after, 7 cultivators had stepped forward. Including the white-robed youth himself, there were 8 powerful cultivators. When some of the forces of the Divine Prefecture saw these 8 powerful cultivators, they had serious looks. If such a lineup could not break through the battle matrix of the rocks, it would most likely be impossible for the other cultivators of the Divine Prefecture to do so. There was still one more candidate to be chosen. Who would he choose? The white-robed cultivator's gaze landed in one direction. The various cultivators followed his gaze. Many of them revealed strange expressions when they saw where he was looking. He was actually looking in the direction where the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were. The person that he was looking at was similarly clad in white robes. His hair was also white like his robes, and he appeared extremely handsome. Many people revealed strange looks. His cultivation was only at the 7th tier. For the final candidate, this monstrous figure of the Nantian domain had actually chosen him? "I have heard that you are the top monstrous figure of the original realm. Would you be willing to join us in battle?" asked the white-robed youth. As expected, he was officially extending an invitation to this person. The final candidate he had chosen was Yi Futian. This also surprised Yi Futian. His cultivation was only at the 7th tier Renhuang plane. The people that the other party had chosen before this were all 8th tier Renhuangs. He could not figure out why the white-robed cultivator had chosen him as the last candidate. However, he naturally knew that his own combat ability was sufficiently powerful. At the very least, he would not hold them back. After all, not long ago, he had defeated an 8th-tier demonic emperor and one of the direct disciples of the devil emperor, Xiaomu. Hence, he was certainly qualified to join the battle. "Isn't it a little rash for him to be the 9th candidate?" said a cultivator who had stepped forward before this. Although he also knew that Yi Futian was the top monstrous figure of the original realm, he was still a 7th-tier Renhuang. If Yi Futian was also an 8th-tier Renhuang like them, inviting him to join the battle was unquestionable. However, given that he was a 7th-tier Renhuang, he seemed to be out of place. The 8 of them who came forward were all prominent figures renowned far and wide. It was not just in a city or a domain. Even in the entire divine prefecture, they were still monstrous figures who stood at the peak. If the 7th-tier Yi Futian were to join them in battle, he would be a misfit. "I believe in Renhuang Ye's ability," said the white-robed cultivator. His temperament was otherworldly. He was still looking at Yi Futian, seemingly awaiting Yi Futian's answer. Yi Futian contemplated this as he looked at the other party. After a short while in deep thought, he then nodded his head and said, "All right." As he said this, he stepped forward. He also wanted to experience how powerful the battle matrix of the rocks was. With their current lineup, Yi Futian realized that it might truly be possible to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. Even without him, the possibility of doing so was still the same. Since it was so, there was no harm in him participating. He stepped forward, and immediately the gazes of the group from the divine prefecture landed on him. The other 7 powerful cultivators were naturally curious towards the top monstrous figure of the original realm. As a 7th-tier Renhuang, he actually came forward to join the 8 of them in battle. All around them, the cultivators of the various forces of the divine prefecture looked towards the battlefield. They glanced across the 9 cultivators. Every one of them was a prominent monstrous figure. They would certainly develop and become the group of people that stood at the very top of the divine prefecture. They might even control a top force and gain great authority in the future. This group of people had joined forces to challenge the cultivators of the Lost Clan and break through the battle matrix of the rocks. With this lineup, could they break through it? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 23:33, Practicing Faith. Chapter 23:33, Practicing Faith. The 8 cultivators from the ancient god clan included the heir of Haotian the Great from the Haotian clan of the Nantian domain, the successor of the Vajra region of the Vajra domain, the heir of Yuanshur the Great from the Yuanshur domain, and the successor of West Imperial Palace from the West Sea domain. Together with Yi Futian, they formed a super powerful lineup. Their mission was to break through the battle matrix of the rocks set up by the Lost Clan. All the other cultivators put on serious expressions. They were full of anticipation and were eager to witness the battle. The cultivators from the divine prefecture were especially excited about this battle. This lineup was terrifying. The cultivators chosen to join the battle were definitely the strongest ones among all the 8th-tier Renhuangs. Their abilities went without question. Yi Futian was the only 7th-tier Renhuang in the team. However, based on his glorious record, the crowd speculated that even though he was only at the 7th tier, his combat ability would most likely not be any weaker than that of those monstrous 8th-tier figures. The crowd here had yet to hear about Yi Futian defeating Xiao Mu, a disciple of the Devil Emperor. Many of the cultivators here had long arrived on this continent. The cultivators from the Devil World arrived in the original realm much later. Besides that, they only came to this continent after Xiao Mu was defeated by Yi Futian. If the crowd had heard of the news, they would not have any doubts about Yi Futian's combat ability at all. As the top monstrous figure who had defeated a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor, Yi Futian showed no sign of inferiority when standing among this powerful lineup. The white-robed cultivator who invited the rest to join the team was Hua Junlai from the Haotian clan of the Nantian domain. The Haotian clan was part of the ancient god clan. They received an inheritance from Haotian the Great. Hua Junlai was the heir of the great emperor. His name was renowned far and wide in the Nantian domain. He was definitely a leader. Moreover, he showed an understanding of the top forces from various domains. Otherwise, he wouldn't have directly invited the cultivators from the ancient god clan of various domains to join him in battle. Aside from Yi Futian, the 8 powerful cultivators who were selected all had powerful backgrounds. Their families could be considered among the most terrifying forces in the divine prefecture. Members of the Lost Clan, let us begin. Hua Junlai greeted the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. Then, an extremely powerful aura of the Great Path emanated from his figure. It was not just him. From other locations, frightening auras of the Great Path burst forth. The instant these auras of the Great Path radiated outwards, an intense rumbling of the Great Path could be heard, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Radiant divine light similarly shone from Yi Futian's divine body. The power of the Great Path inside his body roared. He swept a glance at the people around him. They stood at 9 different locations. Sensing the strength of their power, Yi Futian speculated that the battle matrix of the Lost Clan would most likely fall to them. It was completely different this time. The 9 people this time were all top monstrous existences. There was no discrepancy in their strength. Once all of them attacked at the same time, their power would be unparalleled. From his observation of the previous battle, the strength of the battle matrix of the rocks lay in the fact that 9 people acted as one. Even if one location was faced with the fiercest of attacks, the other parts of the matrix could instantly compensate and reach an equilibrium, ensuring that the battle matrix survived. However, if the entire battle matrix was attacked by the 9 great cultivators' most powerful attacks simultaneously, there was still a chance that it would be instantly shattered. Now, the 9 of them had the ability to do so. It was because of this that Yi Futian decided to join the fight. Since the result was already determined, and the Lost Clan would not prevent the rest of them from entering the space, it was convenient for him to occupy one of the 9 spots. This time, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan had unprecedented, serious looks. They formed seals with their hands. Immediately, the sound of the Great Path could be heard. Illusory figures of ancient gods formed. They blocked out the sky and sealed off the space. Like before, the ancient gods were everywhere, sealing off this part of the sky. The 9 great cultivators were all trapped within the matrix. The Lost Clan immediately started the battle with the power that they had demonstrated in the latter part of the previous battle. From this, it was apparent that they took the cultivators from the divine prefecture seriously. "Everyone, how about we break it with one strike?" asked Hua Junlai. Since they wanted to break through the battle matrix of the rocks, it was meaningless to waste any more time. If they wanted to break through it, they might as well destroy it with one strike by unleashing absolute power. Trying to wear it down like the previous 9 people was meaningless. "Agreed," someone responded. Immediately, the unparalleled power of the Great Path gathered around the 9 of them. They were trapped in this vast space, yet judging from the brilliant imperial glories around them, one could still sense how powerful they were. A majestic and divine figure appeared behind Hua Junlai. It was the illusory figure of a great emperor. It was as though the great emperor himself had descended on earth. A shocking power erupted from Hua Junlai. His white robes fluttered while his long hair danced in the wind. He raised his arm, and the illusory figure of the great emperor followed suit. A gigantic palm instantly smashed towards the other party. The gigantic palm glowed brightly with divine light, and it caused the entire space to quake. It was as though the palm could directly shatter the space. At the same time, the cultivators who stood in different directions also unleashed their attacks. The successor of the Vajra region pointed at the sky. His finger kept expanding as though it was a finger of the god of the Vajra region. The finger was indestructible and could penetrate through all things. The cultivator from Yuanshi Palace waved his arm. Billions of swords of catastrophe immediately materialized in the sky. They lined up to form a mighty matrix of swords of catastrophe and rained down like the wrath of a god. The other 5 cultivators also attacked. Each and every attack was overbearing. Yi Futian didn't stand idly too. A menacing aura burst forth from his body of the Great Path. His body transformed into swordsmanship. When he pointed a finger forward, countless divine swords in the heavens and the earth resonated and rang as sword will coalesce to form the fleeting divine sword. It then charged towards one of the illusory figures of the ancient gods summoned by the cultivators of the Lost Clan. All 9 of them attacked at the same time. In other places, very few could withstand any of their attacks. With all of them unleashing their attacks at once, how frightening would their collective power be? When the attacks landed on their targets, the shattering sound of pieces breaking apart could be heard. Cracks immediately appeared in the sealed space. Furthermore, the cracks kept propagating outwards. Then the sealed space disintegrated. The figures of the ancient gods also exploded and turned to dust. The sky seemed to be collapsing. The matrix had been broken. The crowd felt their hearts tremble. As expected, even the sturdy battle matrix of the rocks could not withstand the attacks of the top 9 figures from the divine prefecture. The matrix was close to perfect in terms of defense. However, it was no match for these 9 cultivators. Every one of them was a top existence who could rule over a region. Futian had mixed feelings when he saw the sealed space collapsing. He was interested in testing out the battle matrix of the rocks, but actually he was unwilling to become an enemy of the Lost Clan. He found the faith practiced by the cultivators of the Lost Clan admirable. Unfortunately, the cultivators from the divine prefecture were determined to succeed in this mission. They would not pass up on the chance of cultivating in the secret zone. They were willing to put together such a strong lineup to break through this grand matrix. Just when everyone else thought that the matrix had been broken, the elder of the Lost Clan had a calm expression. He sighed inside as he glanced at the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. The next moment, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan shut their eyes. Divine lights shot out from their glabellas and converged at the same point. A solemn sound of the great path echoed. The atmosphere of the vast space suddenly changed. Then, the crowd witnessed the shattered space coalesce once again. The battle matrix of the rocks was repairing itself. What was happening? The surrounding cultivators had puzzled expressions. Divine light shone brightly from the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. Their flesh turned somewhat illusory, as though their entire beings were merging into this space of the great path. They transformed into ancient gods as their wills and spirits were pushed to their utmost limit. Futian's eyes narrowed when he heard the solemn sound of the great path. He turned his gaze towards the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. A sense of uneasiness welled up inside of him. They were. Futian suddenly thought of the faith held dear by the cultivators of the Lost Clan. They would transform their flesh into rocks and protect the continent. At this very moment, could it be that they were still practicing their faith? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. To the side, the various cultivators of the Lost Clan stood at different locations. Their expressions turned sullen when they saw the scene in the sky. Many of them put their hands together and bowed at the 9 great cultivators high above. The elder of the Lost Clan also looked in that direction. He secretly sighed. However, his gaze was extremely resolute. To the side, the various cultivators of the Lost Clan stood at different locations. Their expressions turned sullen when they saw the scene in the sky. Many of them put their hands together and bowed at the 9 great cultivators high above. The elder of the Lost Clan also looked in that direction. He secretly sighed. However, his gaze was extremely resolute. On the day they joined the Lost Clan, everything had been determined. The cultivators of the Lost Clan were all prepared to offer up their lives at any given moment. No matter what plane they had cultivated to, no matter what status they held, they were all prepared to put down their lives. This was the belief that they had held onto resolutely for countless years. It was the faith that was planted within their souls. It was because of this belief that the cultivators of the Lost Clan could set aside all other distractions and all cultivate to a high cultivation plane. Therefore, the overall ability of the cultivators of this continent was very powerful. Now, the Lost Clan had just emerged from the Dark World. Yet, they were faced with a new crisis. Cultivators from various worlds had come and intended to plunder everything that the Lost Clan had. Once the Lost Clan agreed to the cultivators' requests, their inheritance would be slowly corrupted. Then, the influence of the outsiders would gradually be strengthened across the entire Shani continent. Human greed knew no bounds. The Lost Clan did not believe that the other party would be satisfied and would leave the Lost Clan alone after they were granted access to cultivate in the cave. On the contrary, the other party would pillage the cave once they discovered the secrets of cultivation hidden within it. An even stronger urge to raid would well up in their hearts, driving them to take over the Lost Clan completely. If that were the case, even though the Lost Clan fought hard and escaped the Dark World, they would most likely be destroyed in the original realm. Sometimes, the hearts of humans were more terrifying than disasters looming in the dark. Hence, regardless of the price that they had to pay, the Lost Clan would not allow the cultivators from other worlds to seize control of the cave and cultivate there. To gain the cultivators' trust, the Lost Clan was willing to let the cultivators briefly check out the place. This was to achieve a state that would allow the Lost Clan to exist peacefully in the original realm. The Shinny continent would become an independent continent like the other continents in the original realm. The Lost Clan would not lose in this battle. They could not afford to lose either. High above the sky of the battlefield, the vast space was sealed off by the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. They transformed themselves into ancient gods and became one with the heavens and the earth. Futian and the rest stood within the space. They witnessed the battle matrix of the rocks take shape once again. This time, the matrix was even more menacing. Futian saw the figures of the ancient gods surrounding them. Divine light flowed around the ancient gods. The faces of the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan could be vaguely seen imprinted on the faces of the ancient gods. It was as though the 9 great cultivators had completely merged with the ancient gods. They had given up their consciousness, their self, and their flesh. Their entire being had become parts of the battle matrix of the rocks. Moreover, the way of rhythm twirled within the battle matrix of the rocks. Futian sensed the solemnity from the rhythm. Besides that, the rhythm contained a hint of sorrow, great courage, and the resolution to do and die. The 9 great cultivators were exhausting their lives as sacrifices to the battle matrix of the rocks. Their selfless act elevated the power of the matrix. This new battle matrix of the rocks grew more brilliantly and was surrounded by divine light. Its beauty shocked all who saw it. The solemn way of rhythm played continuously, exerting a powerful pressure on the cultivators. Aside from Futian, other cultivators also noticed the changes that occurred to the battle matrix of the rocks. "Everyone, have you gone mad?" asked Hua Junlai, heir to the Haotian clan from the Nantian domain as he looked at the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. They were merging themselves into the battle matrix. If the battle matrix were shattered by attacks, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan would perish on the spot and be killed. Their lives were on the line. They forged the battle matrix of the rocks with their own bodies of flesh and blood. There was no response. The unparalleled pressure persisted. The cultivators of the Lost Clan still did the same and did not take the initiative to attack. They established the battle matrix of the rocks merely for defense. No matter how one looked at it, the Lost Clan appeared exceptionally friendly. They put themselves in a passive state of defending. When Hua Junlai and the others saw this scene, their expressions turned serious. He said, "If that is the case, we won't hold back." As he said this, the illusory figure of the great emperor shone even brighter. He extended his palm, and an astonishing power immediately surged into his palm. The other cultivators also amassed frightening auras of the Great Path. Divine wheels of the Great Path appeared. Even more alarming auras radiated from their figures. Only Futian did not gather up his power. He glanced at the various cultivators and then looked in the direction of the members of the Lost Clan. He knew that if the battle matrix of the rocks were shattered, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan would die on the spot. Since the Lost Clan chose to do so, their resolve was evident. They would not back down at all. They took a passive stance, but, in reality, it also displayed their resolve. They would not let the cultivators from the outside world enter the core region of the Lost Clan to cultivate. This point was evident from them offering up their lives to protect the battle matrix of the rocks. From the looks of it, the Lost Clan didn't really want the powers cultivated by other cultivators either. They purposely brought up this condition just now. If they managed to survive, then they would most likely give up this condition to give face to the various forces. Their act would hopefully cause the various forces to feel ashamed. Then, the two parties would have an opportunity to resolve their differences and let go of the matter of cultivating in the cave. Futian seemed to have understood the intentions of the Lost Clan. However, both sides were caught in a dilemma. The Lost Clan did not hesitate to pay such a high price to win this battle. Since it was so for this fight, it would also certainly be the same for the next. This time, the cultivators of the Divine Prefecture were the ones attacking. The top figures of the Dark World, the Empty Divine Realm, and the Human Realm had yet to attack. There were also cultivators from other worlds as well. Under such circumstances, if the Lost Clan wanted to hold their ground and not surrender, how high of a price did they have to pay for it to be enough? How many top-tier cultivators of the Lost Clan needed to be sacrificed? When he thought about this, Futian felt somewhat hesitant. Would he attack and break the battle matrix of the rocks? If he did so, everything that the Lost Clan had done would be for naught. The 9 great cultivators would also perish on the spot. Before this, he had only joined the battle because he believed the battle matrix would certainly be broken. He had never imagined the determination of the Lost Clan would be so strong and that this would be their trump card. Otherwise, he would not have participated in this battle. Just as Futian was contemplating this, the other cultivators had already begun to attack. The frenzied attacks of 8 powerful cultivators landed consecutively on the battle matrix of the rocks. Immediately, the sound of an astounding explosion could be heard. The entire space was trembling violently. The battle matrix of the rocks was also shaking, seemingly unstable. However, as the divine light circled it, it still did not shatter. The 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan merged into the battle matrix and became ancient gods. They nodded their heads slightly and closed their eyes. They sat motionlessly there like statues. Right now, their lives were no longer their own. They only served to protect the battle matrix of the rocks as martyrs. As long as the matrix held up, they would survive. If it fell, they would fall with it. The matrix had not shattered. The various cultivators in the distance were somewhat uneasy when they saw this scene. As long as the matrix held up, the Lost Clan would survive. What sort of faith was this? If they wanted to break through the matrix, they had to kill the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. The Lost Clan was ruthless. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 23:35. No Compromise. Chapter 23:35. No compromise. Not only were the cultivators from the Lost Clan ruthless towards their enemies, but they were also ruthless towards themselves. They would risk their lives to protect their cultivation land. The cultivators from the top forces of the Divine Prefecture and other worlds doubted that they would ever endanger their own lives for the same cause. It was arduous for them to cultivate up until their current cultivation planes. Those who stood at the peak of the cultivation world would treasure their lives even more than others. At the very least, they would not simply do something that they knew for sure would cause them to perish. There were very few things that were worthy of them risking their lives to protect. Why didn't you attack? After the storm dissipated, the 8 powerful cultivators discovered that Futian hadn't attacked. He merely observed on the side while the rest of them attacked the battle matrix of the rocks. Futian's actions caused the others to be dissatisfied. The battle matrix of the rocks had transformed and was now stronger than before. Futian actually stood still while the rest attacked it. Did he have any intention to break through the matrix? Quite a few cultivators glared at Futian as they frowned. They had unhappy expressions on their faces. Clearly, they were irritated at Futian's actions. Since Futian wasn't attacking now, wouldn't he be gaining the opportunity to cultivate in the Holy Land of the Lost Clan without contributing anything if they managed to break through the battle matrix of the rocks later? If that was the case, what was the point of inviting him to be part of the team to break through the matrix? Futian explained, the battle matrix of the rocks has been upgraded. It will most likely not be simple to break through it. Even though all of us here are top cultivators, it is still difficult for us to break through the matrix. Judging from the current situation, The cultivators from the lost clan will surely perish if we succeed in breaking through it. Do we have to go so far for a spar? Yi Futian suggested, why don't we stop here? Let's forget about the agreement too. What do you think? After he said this, he turned towards the cultivators of the lost clan and said, I'm sure the lost clan will also agree to my suggestion, right? He hoped that both parties would forego this fight and end things here. The 9 cultivators of the lost clan had merged themselves into the battle matrix of the rocks. They were undoubtedly cruel to themselves. However, their resolute attitude would similarly provoke the ego of the cultivators from the divine prefecture. The cultivators from the divine prefecture would most likely fight until the very end to break through the matrix. Yi Futian was worried that if both parties persisted in this battle, their animosity towards each other would go beyond the point of no return. The situation would only worsen from then on. It was not something Yi Futian wanted to see. The 8 major factions of the ancient god clan have come together for this mission. Is there a matrix that we can't break through? Said someone coldly. The speaker cast a sideways glance at Yi Futian as his annoyance towards him flared up. Not only did Yi Futian refuse to attack, but he was also arrogant and intended to teach the rest of them how to proceed with the matter? Did Yi Futian think that he was the only one with compassion? Since the lost clan insisted on fighting, the ancient god clan would naturally grant their wish. Even when faced with the upgraded battle matrix of the rocks, they would still forcefully break through it. The history of the lost clan was indeed admirable. The ancient god clan respected them for it, but they would go all out in battle when faced with such formidable opponents. The ancient god clan would not show them mercy. Of course, the most important point was that the formidable power demonstrated by the lost clan piqued their curiosity. They were even more determined to have a look inside the cave. When Yi Futian heard the other party's response, he was certain that they would not give up on this battle. Moreover, the other party regarded the 8 of them as the representatives of the 8 major factions of the ancient god clan, essentially excluding him from the lineup. The speaker ignored Yi Futian's existence and claimed that even with only the 8 of them, they would still be able to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. The cultivators of the lost clan also heard this conversation. Outside the battlefield, the elder of the lost clan glanced at Yi Futian with a shocked expression. It seemed like this Yi Futian was siding with their lost clan. Moreover, based on what he had said just now, the elder guessed that Yi Futian had understood his intention. Actually, the lost clan had no desire to obtain the techniques cultivated by the cultivators from the other worlds. Since the rest of them are not willing to compromise, Renhuang Yi doesn't need to advise them anymore, said the elder of the lost clan. Hua Junlai cast a glance at the elder. Then he said, let us continue. After he said this, the 8 powerful cultivators once again amassed a strong force. At this moment, on the battlefield, there seemed to be a real halo of the great emperor shining. The 8 powerful cultivators were all, without exception, the successors of the ancient god clan. Their families had inheritances of the great emperors. They were also top figures in their families. Hence, all of them had inherited the powers of the great emperors. Yi Futian was shocked when he sensed the power gathered by the 8 of them. He glanced at the battle matrix of the rocks. He dared not predict the outcome of this battle. Would the power gathered by the 8 powerful cultivators succeed in breaking through the upgraded battle matrix of the rocks? Rumble. Terrifying sound thundered as a frenzied storm rampaged. The 8 powerful cultivators had once again attacked. Moreover, they had better control of their attack timing this time. All their attacks landed on the battle matrix of the rocks simultaneously. The great path was on the verge of collapsing the moment the attacks landed. The battle matrix of the rocks shook violently as cracks appeared on it. The illusory figures of the ancient gods seemed as though they would disintegrate into pieces at any moment. However, right now, the 9 great cultivators of the lost clan closed their eyes and put their hands together. Blood trickled down their bodies. Their blood appeared golden in color as it merged and flowed with the divine light. Red veins flowed over the cracks on the battle matrix of the rocks, fusing them together. The scene was appalling. Yi Futian raised his head and looked at the matrix. Bloody marks appeared on the battle matrix of the rocks. He felt as though he could see similar scars appearing on the bodies of the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. This battle matrix of the rocks was forged with their own flesh. Continue. Hua Junlai and the others showed no sign of ceasing. They continued attacking. As more and more ferocious attacks landed on the matrix, the bloody marks on it also increased. Soon, the red marks covered the entire sealed space. Aside from golden halos, the ancient gods were also covered with a layer of crimson shimmer. "Do all of you still want to continue this battle?" asked the elder of the Lost Clan as he looked at the cultivators who were trapped in the battle matrix of the rocks. No matter how sturdy the matrix was, it would still crumble in the end if the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture attacked it relentlessly. When that happened, the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan would surely die. Even though the 9 of them were ready to sacrifice their lives to hold up the battle matrix of the rocks, it didn't mean that the Lost Clan was willing to let them die just like that. If the other party chose to retreat, they wouldn't have to go to such an extreme. "The matrix has yet to be broken. How can we stop?" replied Hua Junlai. Clearly, he intended to continue attacking until the matrix was broken. When the elder of the Lost Clan heard his words, he sighed internally. He glanced in the direction of the battle matrix of the rocks. Among the battle matrix, the 9 cultivators still had their eyes closed. However, the divine light on their glabellas shone even more brilliantly. An unprecedented aura radiated from their figures. Futian frowned when he sensed the aura from the battle matrix of the rocks. He could faintly sense that a dangerous aura was approaching and was emanating from within the battle matrix. He looked at the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan and detected some changes happening to their figures. He was not the only one who sensed it. The other 8 powerful cultivators also sensed this change and frowned. The next moment, divine light filled the sky. The 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan seemed to have activated all the cultivation that they had accumulated over their entire lifetimes. "This isn't good," said Futian as he realized something. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:36, Advocating Peace? Chapter 23:36, Advocating Peace. Futian watched and noticed that as this dangerous aura permeated, the figures of the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan gradually became more elusive. It was as if they were making an offering of sacrifice. But at the same time, a sense of destruction manifested within the battle matrix made up by the 9 of them, who had been passively defending until now. Hua Junlai and the others, strong as they were, could also feel an overwhelming crisis looming ahead. Instinct told them that it was dangerous and their lives may be threatened. An astonishing roar of the Great Path was heard as those figures of the ancient gods continued to grow and expand. Those previously benign ancient deities were now filled with fierce and menacing spirits. They transformed into vengeful gods. They looked down into the battle matrix at those 9 challengers and made no effort to disguise their murderous intent. At this moment, everyone realized that it was not that the cultivators of the Lost Clan were not experts in slaughtering offensive methods. It was simply that they were reluctant to use it. They had chosen to defend passively before because they didn't want this battle to create any further grievances. However, even though they tried their best to guard the battle matrix of the rocks, Hua Junlai and the others continued to press with their aggressive tactics and would not stop until they break down the battle matrix. If they continued their attack, it was just a matter of time before the battle matrix collapsed. The attacks of these 8 cultivators had already threatened the battle matrix of the rocks, and the outcome would be the total destruction of the battle matrix and the 9 cultivators of the Lost Clan along with it. Hua Junlai and the others would force their way into the heart of the Lost Clan's holy land and cultivate there. This was something that the Lost Clan could not accept, so their action of unleashing their lethal counterattacks was inevitable. Hua Junlai and his cohort had made a decision, and so did the Lost Clan. Since they were all going to die, why bother to maintain a semblance of mercy? This is crazy. The cultivators of the top principalities from Divine Prefecture scowled when they saw this latest development in the battlefield. especially those from the ancient god clan, whose cultivators were participating in the fight. Traces of aggressive aura erupted from them, covering the boundless space instantaneously. The air was so explosive that it could be ignited with just a turning of their minds. At the same time, several powerful cultivators also stepped forward from the Lost Clan and released astonishing coercion that directly engaged the momentum of several top principalities from Divine Prefecture. Every one of them looked solemn, their eyes showed their steely resolve. The cultivators from the Lost Clan had no fear in their eyes. They would do everything in their power to stay true to their beliefs, including sacrificing their own lives. With such an abundance of courage, what else did they need to fear? Having been in the darkness for so many years, now that the light was finally in sight, how could they fail at a time like this? The 9 cultivators on the battlefield were also living proofs of their beliefs, fighting without fear, all for protecting their continent. Futian saw this and thought that if this were to continue, both sides would probably suffer greatly. Even the 9 cultivators of the Lost Clan would probably die right on the spot. As for the people inside the battle matrix of the rocks, there was no telling what would happen to them, but it would definitely not be anything good. If they didn't die, they would certainly suffer grave injuries. At that time, when 2 uncontrollable sides go to war, the fighting would not be limited to the battlefield then but would also spill over to the outside. Outside, there were already many kinds of tyrannical auras colliding with one another because the space outside the battlefield was equally intense, on the verge of total explosion. It seemed that a conflict might break out at any moment. If the strength of this battle matrix of the rocks had truly threatened the lives of the cultivators inside the formation, those top figures from the ancient god clan would, no doubt, intervene right away. After all, they were nothing like the Lost Clan. To those from the ancient god clan, there were not so many rules and restrictions to observe, and their attitude towards life was quite different from that of the Lost Clan. They didn't have to fight with their lives here. The cultivators inside the battle matrix of the rocks were the top enchanting geniuses from their clan, and the heir of the ancient god clan was amongst them. This battle was already an unequal affair. The Lost Clan had always been in an absolutely passive position. They had to desperately defend themselves, while the ancient god clan didn't need to. That destructive coercion was getting stronger, with a terrifying might. All the ancient gods incarnated as glaring deities. Bloody divine light shot out from their eyes with horrific murderous intent. The rumbling sound came out as frightening golden divine light raging in this battlefield space, and every trace of divine light seemed to contain amazingly destructive power. Hua Junlai and others deployed a protective divine light to block the impact of this golden light. However, at this time, the depressive aura became so dominant that the entire space had been imprisoned, and those within it could hardly move their bodies. Kill! A cold, murderous intent flashed across Hua Junlai and the others' eyes, accompanied with a look of determination. It had become challenging for them to move at will, but an absolute divine brilliance of the great path erupted above them. They advanced slowly towards those ancient gods, moving in for the fatal blow. Bang bang bang. Astonishing attacks fell as cracks appeared on the bodies of those ancient god clan. Boom. At the same time, a loud crash was heard, and the void seemed to be shattering and pulverizing as Hua Junlai and the others let out a low groan. The 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan seemed to have forgotten themselves, burning themselves up while their strength was still increasing. The attacks from both sides stuck together, and no one was willing to back down. This would only end when one side was destroyed. At this time, Futian moved, and an astonishing violent sound erupted from his divine body of the Great Path. The booming of the Great Path continued without ceasing, and the sword will roared. He moved forward like a sword himself, stepping into the void, in the midst of the enormous oppression of the battle matrix, inching closer to the battlefield. Gradually, his speed was getting faster. His body transformed into the way, like an indestructible divine sword. He descended as a stream of light and directly blasted on the battle matrix of the rocks. In an instant, fissures appeared on the battle matrix. A painful expression appeared on the Lost Clan cultivators' faces, but they still didn't waver. Futian's sword was getting stronger, as that power penetrated everything and attacked the formation. When he beheld this sight, Hua Junlai and the others had a look of satisfaction on their faces. Finally, Yi Futian made his move. "Break the battle matrix," Hua Junlai offered. "How about stopping right here, right now?" Yi Futian looked inside the battle matrix of the rocks. His eyes seemed to penetrate through it, landing on those 9 powerful cultivators from the Lost Clan. Although the 9 still had their eyes closed, at this moment, Yi Futian felt as if he was facing them, conversing with them. Was it too late to stop now? If they stop, would these cultivators from Divine Prefecture stop? It's not worth it for a fight. Both sides can take a step back. Let's consider this a tie, Yi Futian suggested. Outside, when the old man from the Lost Clan saw this, his attention drifted towards Yi Futian's location. Previously, he was a little surprised when Yi Futian made his move. He thought that Yi Futian would break up the matrix himself, but now it seemed that he wanted to advocate peace instead. The thing was, how could it be as simple as he thought? It was the people from Divine Prefecture who refused to give up. "It's not the Lost Clan who won't let go," said the elder of the Lost Clan, who was on the outside. "If they refuse to quit, I will leave it alone and let you deal with them, and they can be responsible for what happens after," Yi Futian continued. His words drew the attention of Hua Junlai and the others as they looked at him with some frostiness. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." Chapter 2337, Reluctance. Chapter 2337, Reluctance. Yi Futian's words seemed to have a deterrent effect on both sides. Of course, this was made possible by his own tyrannical combat effectiveness. Yi Futian's attacks seemed to have threatened the battle matrix of the rocks. This battle matrix may have been broken up had he continued with the attacks, resulting in the death of these cultivators from the Lost Clan, which would directly threaten the stability of the Lost Clan. If he stepped back now and chose not to participate, then the cultivators from the Lost Clan would continue their own attack. It was possible that the 8 cultivators from Divine Prefecture would be slaughtered. In short, there would be casualties on both sides. Therefore, at this moment, Yi Futian seemed to be playing a key role in deterring both sides. He had the ability to advocate a truce. The Lost Clan had to agree, and so did the cultivators from Divine Prefecture. Or else, he would stop running the interference. However, the 8 cultivators from the Ancient God Clan did not express any gratitude for Yi Futian's suggestion. On the contrary, their eyes were icy when Hua Junlai asked, "Emperor Yi, did you forget the reason why you were in the battle matrix of the rocks?" Yi Futian was invited by him to break up the formation. Now, what was this that he was doing? He seemed to have forgotten which side he belonged to. If Yi Futian still remembered the reason he was here, then he should break up the formation with them, not uttering another word. But obviously, Yi Futian didn't come here to break up the battle matrix of the rocks. And now, the cultivators from Divine Prefecture were unsure of what Yi Futian had in mind, or what was it that he wanted. They thought that for cultivators who had reached this level, everything that they chose to do must have sufficient reasons so that they could convince themselves of their own purpose. But from Yi Futian, they had not seen any evidence of this yet. "You were invited to join us to break the battle matrix of the rocks, which you have clearly forgotten. Do you have any sense of propriety?" Another cultivator from the Ancient God Clan asked, sounding displeased with strong resentment. "If you gentlemen wish to continue, I will have no choice but to withdraw." Yi Futian didn't respond to the man who spoke, but his response, in turn, caused the cultivators from the Ancient God Clan to look quite uncertain. Their attacks were strong enough to shake the battle matrix of the rocks in its ultimate configuration, which was the rocks forged by flesh and blood. However, when the cultivators of the Lost Clan were burning themselves up, even powerful existence like them could sense the great danger that was afoot. If Yi Futian withdrew, it was still the strongest blow dealt by the 8 cultivators from Divine Prefecture to the cultivators from the Lost Clan. No one dared to predict what the outcome would be. They themselves would be in the same predicament where their chance of survival would be unknown. This was a tremendous gamble, wagering their own lives. With their status and positions today, were they willing to die here like this? Clearly, it was not a risk that they would take on easily or willingly. Their goal was to provoke Yi Futian into taking action, but no one expected that Yi Futian not only failed to obey but was using it as an opportunity to blackmail them into giving up, knowing very well that his inaction would spell disastrous consequences for all those who chose to continue in the battle. All eyes were focused on Yi Futian. After a while, Hua Junlai, with eyes so frosty, glanced at Yi Futian and addressed the Lost Clan. In this case, will the cultivators from the Lost Clan agree to stop fighting at this point? Hua Junlai's words suddenly relaxed the suffocating coercion that had permeated this space. Now that he had posed the question, it was obvious that he intended to give it up and not gamble with their own lives. With their status and positions, there was no need to fight to the death with the Lost Clan. The cultivators from the Lost Clan were willing to protect their cave's holy land with their lives, but their opponents did not have the same resolve, unwilling to risk their lives or inconvenience themselves in the slightest. That aura served as a warning of any potential threats. Yes, the old man from the Lost Clan said. Unless it was the last resort, why would he order the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan to fight to the death, all at the same time? Once this final blow was delivered, there would be no retreat. The 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan would die, but their opponents would also pay an equally tragic price. They were forced by the situation. If the Lost Clan did not demonstrate the ruthless measures they were willing to take, there would be other battles to fight in the future. His voice fell, and the divine light began to flow backward, gradually dissipating. Suddenly, the figures of the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan started to solidify, gradually became clear. However, they seemed to have expanded quite a lot of their own life force as they appeared a little tired. Clearly, they had been weakened quite considerably. Both sides pulled back at the same time. This battle seemed to have ended there. As the two sides pulled away from each other, they fell into a short silence without exchanging words. However, solemnity and oppression could still be felt in the aura of the great path that lingered in the space. This exchange is considered a draw. There is no winner or loser. The old man from the Lost Clan spoke up, but no one responded. The entire space was still frightfully suppressed. At this moment, Hua Junlai turned around, and his cold gaze fell on Yi Futian. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and there were wisps of chill engraved on his face. "Don't you want to explain?" Hua Junlai asked coldly. If Yi Futian had not deliberately done this, they might have been victorious. Their attack was so close to breaking the battle matrix of the rocks. Obviously, Yi Futian could deliver the final coup de grace but deliberately withheld, even using it to threaten them. He didn't fault the cultivators from the Lost Clan. It was a gamble and battle between the two sides. However, in his opinion, Yi Futian had betrayed them. Perhaps Emperor Yi will be able to cultivate in the caves of the Lost Clan in the near future. Another sarcastic remark was heard from another cultivator of the ancient god clan. They were already a little irritated when Yi Futian was participating in the battle. Not to mention everything that had happened afterward. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. The continuation of that fight will not benefit either the Lost Clan or any of you. It was just a friendly exchange. No need to pay such a dear price for something so trivial. Yi Futian looked at Hua Junlai as he responded. Really? Has Emperor Yi never heard of do what you agreed to do? Obviously, Hua Junlai refused to accept Yi Futian's explanation. If Yi Futian was reluctant to make a move against the Lost Clan, he didn't have to agree to participate in the first place. However, since he did, he should have done all that he could to help them succeed. Not only did Yi Futian fail to do that, but he even refused to make a move and threatened them with his inaction. If he had picked someone else instead of choosing Yi Futian, would the outcome be any different? Could they have broken the battle matrix of the rocks by now? What do you want? Yi Futian frowned. Wisps of great path coercion spread out from Hua Junlai's body and directly suppressed upon him. It seemed that Hua Junlai wanted to challenge him. And Hua Junlai was not alone. Other cultivators from Divine Prefecture were also staring him down, and some even took a few steps toward him. The same elusive aura fell on him as well, as if they, too, wanted to take action against him. Clearly, These cultivators were unhappy with him. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Yi Futian looked at Hua Junlai and the other 7 cultivators. He said, "My actions are indeed inappropriate. I didn't think things through before agreeing to join the team. However, even if I go all out, I'm not confident that I'll surely be able to shatter the battle matrix of the rocks. The outcome of this battle is uncertain regardless. Even if we manage to break through, who can guarantee that we will come out unscathed?" Yi Futian looked at Hua Junlai and the other 7 cultivators. He said, "My actions are indeed inappropriate. I didn't think things through before agreeing to join the team. However, even if I go all out, I'm not confident that I'll surely be able to shatter the battle matrix of the rocks. The outcome of this battle is uncertain regardless. Even if we manage to break through, who can guarantee that we will come out unscathed?" With a clear and sincere voice, Yi Futian continued, "The cultivators of the Lost Clan are willing to risk their lives to uphold the battle matrix of the rocks. This act is admirable. I admit that I have a soft spot for them. Therefore, the Heavenly Mandate Academy and I will give up on this mission. We will not attack the Lost Clan. We will also give up on the chance of cultivating in the cave of the Lost Clan. We will not loot the treasures that belong to them." He agreed to join the battle, yet he couldn't give his best while the 2 parties were fighting. He was naturally at fault. However, he did so because he was impressed by everything that the Lost Clan did. So, he didn't want to go to such extremes. "You will give up on the chance to cultivate in the cave?" reiterated a cultivator of the ancient god clan mockingly. "With this gesture, the Lost Clan will most likely treat you as an honorable guest. They might invite you to cultivate in their secret zone after the battle is over." Clearly, the ancient god clan cultivators thought that Yi Futian was trying to curry favor with the Lost Clan. Yi Futian gave the speaker a disdainful sideways glance. He said indifferently, "What plane have you reached? And what plane have I reached?" Frowning, the other party stared at Yi Futian. He was an 8th-tier Renhuang, while Yi Futian was a 7th-tier Renhuang. You can't break through the matrix. On the other hand, I am confident to challenge this 7th-tier battle matrix of the rocks. If I join forces with other people, do you think that I will fail? Yi Futian retorted. What he meant was that if he were really interested in cultivating in the secret zone of the Lost Clan, he would have earned the right to do so fair and square by breaking through the battle matrix of the rocks. Yi Futian's words also served to declare to the other party that just because the latter couldn't break through the matrix, it didn't mean that Yi Futian couldn't too. It wouldn't be a surprise to anyone if Yi Futian managed to break through the matrix with his cultivation at the 7th-tier Renhuang plane. After all, Yi Futian's combat ability was enough for him to contend with the top monstrous figures who were at the 8th tier. You can't tell for sure. The other 8 cultivators were somewhat doubtful. Even though Yi Futian was indeed very powerful, it was still not an easy task to want to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. However, Xiao Mu from the Devil World believed in Yi Futian's words. Since Yi Futian could defeat him, it was most likely possible for him to break through the matrix forged by the 7th-tier cultivators from the Lost Clan. After all, the difference between each tier was enormous when cultivators reached Yi Futian's and Xiao Mu's level. Renhuang Yi is full of compassion, praised the elder of the Lost Clan. He then declared, "The Lost Clan is glad to befriend Renhuang Yi." "Senior, many thanks," responded Yi Futian as he looked at the other party. Since the Shin'i continent has come to the region of the original realm, it's now part of the original realm and the Divine Prefecture. The Lost Clan should be allowed to exist here as an independent clan. This continent has been through countless challenges before it finally emerged from the void. I hope that the seniors from the Divine Prefecture can take this into consideration. The Shin'i continent had now drifted into the space of the original realm. Since the original realm was part of the Divine Prefecture, Yi Futian recognized the Lost Clan to be under the jurisdiction of the Divine Prefecture. In that case, the Lost Clan could be considered an independent faction of the Divine Prefecture. Unfortunately, even though Yi Futian's friendliness towards the Lost Clan caused him to win their favor, It also caused him to offend all the cultivators from the ancient god clan. Yi Futian's readiness to accept the lost clan formed a stark contrast with the actions of the ancient god clan. He made them seem despicable. Was Yi Futian using the ancient god clan to establish a good connection with the lost clan? Hua Junlai's gaze was fixed on Yi Futian. A majestic might of the great path emanated from him and pressured Yi Futian. Hua Junlai's white robes fluttered in the wind. His aura churned and grew more frightening. He took a step forward and said, "Renhuang Yi, your words exemplify your noble character. Now you make it seem that we are the ones who are despicable. I invited you to join our party because I have heard that you have an exceptional temperament and have acquired the inheritances of a few great emperors. However, up until now, I have yet to see you attacking. Since that's the case, I have no choice but to personally test out your ability." Hua Junlai intended to attack Yi Futian. As soon as he said this, a menacing aura burst forth. His might descended upon Yi Futian. An illusory figure of a god appeared. It was as though Haotian the Great was reincarnated into the present. Hua Junlai stood in front of the illusory figure of the great emperor. He was akin to the successor of the god. His charisma was unparalleled. "Since you want to get a taste of my power, I have no choice but to oblige your request," responded Yi Futian. His figure shot up to the sky like a meteorite. In an instant he appeared high above in the sky. Hua Junlai also flew up to the sky. The two of them stared at each other from across the space. Their auras of the great path churned and roared. Their might spanned across the entire region. They seemed to be contending to be the ruler of this part of the sky. Hua Junlai raised his arm. Similarly, the illusory figure of the god raised his arm. Their movements were in sync. They sent out a palm strike. In an instant, the great path thundered, and the heavens and the earth shook. A gigantic palm directly descended upon Yi Futian. Far in the distance, Yi Futian felt as though the sky was collapsing. The entire sky transformed into a gigantic palm that was charging towards him. He had nowhere to hide. The entire space of the great path was within the attack range of this gigantic palm. Besides that, endless destructive divine light flowed around the palm. It was as though the will of Haotian the Great had been infused in the divine light. It would destroy everything along its path. But the fatal gigantic palm plunged downwards, eradicating every speck of existence along its way. Rumbling sounds rang. It was the reverberation of the great path emanating from Yi Futian's body. Divine light burst forth from his body. It was likewise infused with imperial glory. The will of the great emperor could still boost his ability now, but its effect was not as strong as it was in the past. After all, Yi Futian was already approaching the peak of the Renhuang Plain. Yi Futian pointed a finger upward. Instantly, alarming sounds buzzed, and a myriad of starry divine swords shot upwards. They clashed with the descending gigantic palm. Ben, ben, ben. Shocking collisions echoed continuously. Each and every divine sword collided forcefully with the palm. Cracks immediately appeared on the gigantic palm. Then, the palm and the starry divine swords disintegrated into pieces together. Everything turned into dust. Far in the distance, Hua Junlai floated in the high heavens. He was at a higher position than Yi Futian. He was not as naive as to think that he could defeat Yi Futian with a single attack. After all, the other party was also a formidable existence that ruled over an entire realm. He looked down at the silhouette below. A vast heavenly might burst forth from his figure. The silhouette of the great emperor behind him made it seem as though Haotian the Great had truly descended upon the world. He himself was a descendant of Haotian the Great and had inherited the will of the great emperor. Down below, where the lost clan was, the various cultivators looked up at the battle high in the sky. Their hearts stirred slightly. Before this, Hua Junlai was trapped within the battle matrix of the rocks and could not go all out. He had been heavily restricted. He most likely felt aggravated over this. At this moment, in his battle with Yi Futian, he could finally unleash his combat ability completely. This powerful existence of the ancient god clan versus the young ruler of the original realm. Who is stronger? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 23:39. Clash and Smash. Chapter 23:39. Clash and Smash. After the destructive current dissipated, Futian raised his head and looked up. Hua Junlai was standing in the high heavens and was looking down on him like a deity. After taking a glance at Hua Junlai, Futian felt as though the entire world had changed. The heaven and the earth around him were no longer that of before. Instead, he was trapped in a world enveloped by the will of Futian the Great. Right above his head stood the figure of the great emperor. The sensation he felt was similar to that when he became one with the stars in the starry cultivation court and saw the figure of great Emperor Ziwei. It seemed like the other parties had overtaken this part of the sky and transformed it into his domain of the great path. Streaks of divine light shone down from the illusory figure of Futian the Great. The might pressed downwards. At this moment, Futian could sense a domineering will pressuring down on him. It was akin to the will of a god, causing him to gasp for air. As a successor of the ancient god clan, Hua Junlai was undoubtedly an extraordinary figure. The pressure Futian felt now was on par with that when he was facing Xiao Mu. For Hua Junlai to enjoy his current status, he would most likely be one of the strongest cultivators in the Futian clan. He was definitely at the top. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to have such status. When he was in the original realm, his will symbolized the will of the Futian clan. Futian, do you admit to your wrongdoing? A voice called out. It rang in Futian's ears as though a heavenly might had descended. It caused the space to tremble and could shake the spiritual souls of those around and affect their wills. It was as though a deity was questioning him. The voice contained the law of the great path. Admit to my wrongdoing? Futian looked up at the illusory figure of Futian the Great in the sky. This was an illusion created by Hua Junlai, relying on the will of Futian the Great to pressure him. It felt as though it was really the will of Futian the Great passing judgment on all that Futian had done. A cold and indifferent look flashed past in Futian's eyes. He bore a look of arrogance. Yet alone the will of Futian the Great, even if the other party had completely inherited the teachings of Futian the Great and wanted to pressure him into submission, he would not be able to do so. Beams of divine light that filled the sky radiated from Futian's figure as he stood in the air. Endless divine halos burst forth from his divine body of the great path, which was akin to that of a deity. He was too dazzling to behold. At the same time, various stars appeared in his surroundings and circled him. A towering illusory figure of a deity appeared. It was the silhouette of great Emperor Ziwei. Hua Junlai wanted to pressure him with just a mere sliver of the will of Futian the Great. Back in the day, great Emperor Ziwei was one of the most prominent great emperors. Futian was his heir. He had unraveled the mystery of great Emperor Ziwei in the starry world and now inherited his will. He would not allow such blasphemy. Brilliant divine halos shone. Two extremely powerful wills clashed. Even though the heavenly might that filled the sky circled around him, Futian still stood there motionlessly. Even if I had committed any wrongdoings, since when were you qualified to pass judgment on me? Replied Futian imposingly. Even if Hua Junlai was a descendant of the ancient god clan, what of it? Hua Junlai actually asked Futian whether or not he admitted to his wrongdoing. Although Futian felt somewhat apologetic, it was because he had hurriedly agreed to the other party's request without thinking things through. Otherwise, if he knew what would happen after, he would not have formed an alliance with the other party. It was as though there were two great emperors on the battlefield. Both of them contained menacing wills. They also seemed to be staring at each other from across the space. They were Futian the Great and great Emperor Ziwei. Both great emperors had unparalleled temperament. In the sky above, Hua Junlai looked down as he raised his arm. A terrifying pressure permeated across the space. The next moment, a gigantic palm smacked downwards. In an instant, the sky tore apart while the earth quaked. Frightening rumbling sounds echoed. The entire sky seemed to have ruptured. The palm eradicated everything that crossed its path. This gigantic palm spanned across this part of the sky. The palm was boundless and could destroy everything. No matter where one ran to, one couldn't possibly escape from its attack range. This was the art of supreme attack of the Futian clan, the Futian Madra. As soon as Hua Junlai attacked, he revealed his intention of ending the battle with a single blow. He was set to destroy Yi Futian without any mercy. Clearly, he had a lot of pent-up anger for not being able to break through the battle matrix of the rocks earlier. Hence, he intended to vent his anger by killing Yi Futian with a single strike. At the same time, when Hua Junlai unleashed his attack, starlight flowed around Yi Futian, and the stars became one. Great Emperor Ziwei's figure and Yi Futian's figure overlapped and merged. A myriad of starry divine swords shot out. As sturdy as stone pillars, the swords blasted towards the descending gigantic palm. Bang! The Futian Madra continued to press down on him. Everything in its path was destroyed. The starry divine swords were similarly turned to dust. It seemed as though no power could withstand the Futian Madra. Buzz! Starlight gathered on his body. Yi Futian appeared like a great emperor reborn. He was majestic. All around him, countless starry divine swords shot up towards the Futian Madra in the sky. It was as though countless rock pillars were pummeling the Futian Madra. Although they were being destroyed at a frenzied pace, they still managed to hold back its descent. At the same time, amidst endless divine light, Yi Futian's figure immediately shot up into the sky. He raised his arms, and the endless power of the great path emanated from within his body, forming a gigantic starry divine sword. It was as though the divine sword and his figure had merged. It directly attacked the Futian Madra. Right then, cracks appeared on the Futian Madra. Then, it shattered at a rapid pace. With a huge thud, the Futian Madra shattered into pieces. However, the starry divine sword similarly crumbled away. Yi Futian's figure continued rising up. He charged through the Futian Madra, becoming a light beam of swordsmanship that shot straight towards Hua Junlai. He was extremely fast. When the various cultivators witnessed this scene, they narrowed their gazes. Yi Futian's flesh and body were terrifyingly powerful. Was he planning to fight Hua Junlai up close? 4 cultivators at their level, the attack range of any of their blows spanned across the entire space. There was no need for them to engage in close combat. Furthermore, close combat was more dangerous than attacking from far anyway. Shimmering with imperial glory, Yi Futian charged towards Hua Junlai in the blink of an eye. The great path roared in his body. Hua Junlai showed no sign of fear when he saw Yi Futian pounce onto him. He didn't dodge. The imperial glory of the great emperor enveloped his body. Both his hands were permeated with a menacing aura as he was ready to unleash the Madra. When Yi Futian got closer, Hua Junlai slammed both his hands downwards. The Futian Madra erupted with a terrifying might. The two clashed head-on. Yi Futian's flesh was as sharp as a sword. The power of Yin and the solar power burst forth from his body simultaneously. He seemed to have transformed into a blade as he collided with Hua Junlai's palms. The sky seemed as though it would collapse at any moment. The terrifying storm of the great path spiraled outwards. The two of them actually engaged in close combat. They tanked each other's attacks with their flesh. They exchanged blow after blow, showing no sign of stopping. The various cultivators looked towards the battlefield. Many people down below released the power of the great path to block off the residue shockwaves. Terrifying storms swept out in the sky above, enveloping the vast space. The space seemed to be collapsing from the battle. The cultivators noticed that Hua Junlai's condition felt off. He seemed to be expending more and more of his strength. In the end, a huge explosion could be heard. Hua Junlai's figure was sent flying outwards. With a dull groan, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.